Jacksonville Jaguars face the Pittsburgh Steelers. But before we kick it off, a moment now to look back at the year on Monday Night Football, where we've been treated to spectacular plays and to virtuoso performances in the primetime spotlight. Going deep, and it is caught by Ward. Touchdown! On first down from the 25, corner blitz, wide open, caught, Jefferson, touchdown! Intercepted by Sanders. Can he score again? There he goes, Deion Sanders. Last week in our prime matchup of the season, Denver faced Miami. Second and 8, and Marino throws. Nothing is Thomas, a touchdown. That's the hat trick for him. And here goes the third ball up into the stands. So 3 cheers for the greatest players in the game. They've given us high drama, electrifying performances, and moments to remember in our weekly Monday Night Theater. Now tonight, the final act, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the season finale of ABC's Monday Night Football. It is a foggy and cool night in Jacksonville on this last month of December. The fog really rolling into Alltel Stadium for the final game of the 1998 National Football League regular season, Pittsburgh against Jacksonville. Al Michaels along with Dan Dierdorf and Boomer Esiason. On one hand, this game means absolutely nothing. The Jaguars going to the playoffs, the Steelers are not. But on the other hand, don't say that to the coaches. It's very important to each man for a different reason. For Bill Cowher, whose team won't go to the playoffs for the first time in his 7-year reign, he said, I don't want to end this season with a 5-game losing streak. We have to live with this game for the next 6 months. On the other hand, Tom Coughlin of the Jaguars is thinking like Mike Shanahan of the Broncos prior to yesterday's game. Mike didn't want to end the season with 3 straight losses going to the playoffs, and they beat Seattle impressively. Coughlin feels the same way. They've lost 2 in a row, including a 50-10 drubbing at the hands of the Minnesota Vikings last week. He wants to end on an up note tonight. So it's the Steelers and the Jaguars as we wrap up the 98 season from Jacksonville, and we'll kick it off after this. Let's go down to the field and Leslie Visser.
Al, as you know, this has been the roughest year for Bill Cowher. Bill, you just huddled with your team. What did you tell them? Why is this game important?
Well, we have 60 minutes left, Leslie, to play Steeler football. Smart, physical, relentless football, and we'll let the chips fall where they may.
You're known as a master motivator. What went wrong this year?
Oh, it's hard to say. I think it's one of those things. It could have been one thing or another. I think the time to reflect is when you get back away from it. Hey, we can only control this tonight, and that's the thing we got to focus on right now.
We'll see if it happens. Thank you, Bill. Back to you, Al.
Thank you, Leslie. Commentary for tonight's game can also be heard in Spanish by pressing the SAP button on your remote. If you want to listen to the game in German, the current score, Steelers 9, Jaguars 9. We'll do it all. Pittsburgh to receive. David Dunn and Will Blackwell are back, and Mike Hollis to kick off.
How could you see them from up here? It's getting foggier by the minute.
Yeah, wait till you see about 10 or 15 minutes from now. I have a feeling it's really going to get thick. At the 1-yard line, this is David Dunn, and the ex-Bengal, who's done a nice job running back kicks, takes it back out to the 27-yard line where Eddie Mason makes the tackle, and now Cordell Stewart comes in. Mentioned on the pregame show, Bill Cowher said no hook tonight. It's Cordell all the way, despite those very unimpressive numbers, a 65.1 rating. Bettis and Lester in the backfield. Hawkins is back. He was out last week with Johnson outside. Bruner is the tight end. Wolford, the rookie Faneca, having a good year. Dawson will go to the Pro Bowl. Stye and Jim Sweeney replacing the injured Jermaine Stevens at right tackle. Bill Cowher, sunglasses tonight, back to the contacts at the 27-yard line. First down in the fog for the Steelers as Bettis over right guard picks up 5 out to the 32. And we'll check out the Jaguars now defensively. Smengi, Jurkovic, Pritchard, and Brackens are up front. Pop, Schwartz, and Hardy are the linebackers. And in the secondary, Beasley and Thomas at the corners. Davis and Hudson are the safeties. They're missing Ronaldo Wynn, the defensive end. He is out for the balance of the season. And so Brackens, who normally comes in pass rush situations, gets the start from the 32-yard line in the second down and 5. Bettis to the outside. Bettis to the 40, and now the fog is really thickening, and you can see it. And there's a history here in Jacksonville. They played a Gator Bowl back in 1981. In fact, on this very day, and nobody could see the field.
And the fog, a very current topic with this Jacksonville squad. Not only did they suffer that humiliating loss in Minnesota last Sunday night, but they couldn't fly into Jacksonville. They had to land in Orlando. They had a several-hour wait, then a couple hours on a bus. They didn't get back to their training facility here at the stadium until 11 a.m.
From the 40-yard line, it is Stewart throwing through the hands of Lester. And one thing you'll notice right at the outset is that it's a lot clearer from our ground level cameras than from the cameras up top.
In talking to Ray Sherman before the game, the offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers said, hey, you're going to see a lot of the bus tonight. And I would imagine on the other side of the ball, we'll see a lot of Fred Taylor to take the pressure off of Jonathan Quinn. But you said earlier, Dan, that this guy right here, Cordell Stewart, has got to start making amends with his teammates and his coaching staff. And tonight, the healing begins.
Second down and 10. Stewart, and that's a bad-looking screen set up for Jerome Bettis, really a safety valve more than anything else. In any event, an ugly play.
Bill Cowher, Al, you mentioned in the pregame, said that Cordell Stewart will be his guy next year. Now, I don't think he has a choice but to say that. But a lot of that is up to Cordell Stewart, Boomer. And that's not a great way to get started. But Cordell Stewart has dug a hole. He's in that hole, and only Cordell can get himself out.
Third and 10 out of the shotgun, and the crowd in full voice as Stewart gets pressure from Brackens and escapes that, and then Slacks takes off. But he's hit hard by Chris Hudson. The safety comes up to pop him and stop him well shy of the first down.
This is going to be a long off season for Cordell Stewart. He's going to have to show his coaches that he's going to be there working out. He's going to have to be in film study with these guys. He's going to have to recommit himself to make sure that not only his teammates know, but his coaches, more importantly, know that he's going to be a part of this football.
Josh Miller with flags down all over the place. Reggie Barlow takes it at the 11-yard line and is tackled at the 15, but 3 flags are down. Fred McAfee made the hit.
Now, in Cordell's defense on that last third down play, he was forced to flee. Tony Brackens got around the corner, and that is what Cordell brings to the table, that mobility. So that just wasn't, not finding anybody open. He had no choice but to flee for his life.
And there have been injuries on the offensive line for the Pittsburgh Steelers. They really don't have a really big-time go-to guy at wide receiver. I mean, there are a number of things that you look at. The loss of free agents, Jackson, Thigpen, I mean, just to name a few, have certainly hurt. But still, if you want to be a quarterback in this league and you want to be compared to the great ones, it's about consistency.
The penalty is against Jacksonville. Bill Carollo is the referee. It was 4th down and 5.
The Steelers offense is coming back out on the field.
And it was more like 4th down and 4 3/4. This would be a first down.
12 man on defense.
Oh.
It's a 5-yard penalty. First down.
And that's why Coughlin was literally hopping mad in that shot you saw a moment ago.
The other thing you might want to mention also is the fact that they have another new offensive coordinator, Ray Sherman, who just came in February. And a lot of people have wondered, how does Ray fit into this whole thing, and what is his basic responsibility? Well, he is more of a West Coast offense type of guy, and he has been asked to learn the Steeler offense, the Earhart, the Gailey offense, and he has had some growing pains as well.
First down from the 50-yard line for the Steelers as Bettis behind Lester runs into a lot of traffic and is taken down at the line of scrimmage. It'll be 2nd and 10. Buss last week able to get back into triple figures in a loss to Cincinnati, but until then he'd been having his worst season as a Steeler of the 3.
And whenever he needs to get well, Al, Monday Night Football is a pretty good tonic for him.
It is. He's played 7 games on Monday night, and he's 7 for 7 in triple figures. 2nd down and 10 from the 50-yard line. Bettis again, and Bettis picks up the first down before he's bumped out by Travis Davis, a gain of 12 to the 38. There it is, Bettis with 7 consecutive 100-yard rushing games, eclipsing the mark held by one Earl Campbell.
Of course, right along with his rushing 7 consecutive 100-yard games, the fact that the Steelers dominate on Monday Night Football. If they played all their games on Monday night, they'd be getting ready for the playoffs.
Yep. Power picks us up at the airport normally.
Sends a car for us.
1st and 10 from the 39. And that is a backward pass.
Oh, is it?
And what's it going to be called? It's pretty close. Here we go again.
No, not this week.
Well, we'll find out. In any event, they're going to say incomplete, as they did last week as well. Bryce Popp put the pressure on that time.
Now these are simple plays that quarterbacks have to make. You invite the blitz to come to you. You know the blitz is coming. Cordell reads it perfectly, and he has to lay the ball to Jerome Bettis. You can see right here, Popp is coming, and he has to deliver the ball and give Bettis a chance to make a catch.
That is a forward pass by about a half a yard.
Right. 2nd and 10 from the 39-yard line. Stewart buys time with a great fake, but the secondary does its job, and then slants it off, loses the ball. It's only his 3rd fumble of the year, and it's a costly one. Recovered by Jacksonville at the 17 by Dave Thomas. John Yurkovich knocked it loose, and the Jaguars with a turnover.
Whatever it is really bothering Cordell because he's trying to make plays, and unfortunately now it leads to a fumble. One thing he hasn't done this year very often.
Cordell Stewart, among regular NFL quarterbacks, he and Randall Cunningham had the fewest fumbles. Randall finishing with 2 and Cordell with his 3rd. And now Jonathan Quinn, 3rd-round pick out of Middle Tennessee State, comes in. Made his first start last week against Minnesota after finishing up for the injured Jamie Martin in the prior game against Tennessee. From the 17-yard line, they start with Taylor on the ground. And Freddie, who would be the Rookie of the Year were it not for a guy named Randy Moss, picks up 5 tackle by Carlos Emmons. Let's look at the Jaguars with Brunell in uniform, but don't expect him to play. They hope he can play Sunday against New England. Fred Taylor and Damon Shelton in the backfield. Jimmy Smith goes to the Pro Bowl as a starter. McCardell outside, Mitchell the tight end. Baselli, Coleman, New Year, DeMarco, and Searcy up front. And Tony Baselli will be starting for the AFC at left tackle in Honolulu. 2nd down and 5. It's Taylor again, and the Florida star gets tackled at the 23-yard line by Lee Flowers. The Steeler defense, and they've done a nice job this year. 3-man front, Roy, Steed, and Henry. And then Gilden, Kirkland, Holmes, and Emmons. Levant having another great year. Lake and Washington at the corners. Flowers and Orlando are the safeties. And despite good work by Jim Haslett's defensive unit, they will not send a single guy to the Pro Bowl. Only DeMonte Dawson, the center, represents Pittsburgh in Hawaii.
Steed and Kirkland, both Pro Bowlers a year ago. If you ask Bill Cowher, he thinks they deserve to go again here in '98.
3rd down and 4 out of the gun. Quinn goes back to pass for the first time and can't get it off as Parnell Lake came through from the corner to take him down.
He took the football and didn't even look downfield. He was more concerned about a pass rush. But if people really want to know what it's like to play quarterback in the NFL, you don't want to have it force-fed to you in Minnesota like it was last week for him, which is a very difficult place to hear and communicate. But then to come in tonight and face a Steeler defense that gives you all kinds of different looks. They blitz from every different angle. It's not an easy situation for a rookie quarterback to be in.
Brian Barker, who has played in every game the Jaguars have played in their 4 years of existence, hits this one off the side of his foot. There's a flag down back at the 29-yard line. The ball goes out at the 43 of Pittsburgh.
Did you see that ball when it left his foot? I lost it in the fog.
And we've got an ineligible man downfield.
I would think that you would decline it and take the ball right where it is.
I was getting ready to congratulate you on your Hawkeye vision.
Illegally downfield, number 34. That penalty is declined. Timeout.
And the penalty is declined. We're 5 minutes into the game after the 37-yard boot. Nothing in Jacksonville. From the 43-yard line, the Pittsburgh Steelers with Stewart throwing. It's caught by Hawkins, and Courtney is taken down at the 48 by Aaron Beasley. It'll be 2nd and 5. Well, you know, we talked about the fact when you look at the standings, there is nothing at stake here, but I think there's a lot of validity to what Bill Cowher says. It's been a dreadful end of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's the worst thing in the world, I think, to go into the offseason with a 5-game losing streak.
And on the other side of it, Tom Coughlin said, I'm going to tell my team, do we want to go into the playoffs like the Jets or like the Dolphins? He wants a good performance to gain momentum from his club tonight.
2nd and 5. Stewart throws, and that is caught by Charles Johnson. And Johnson is out of bounds at the 31-yard line. And then, Boomer, though, it's a strange situation for Coughlin, of course, because he wants to get his team ready, but he's getting it ready without the most vital part.
Well, that's right. And without Mark Brunell, this team was demoralized last week. And he talked about it in the pregame. You know, he wants to get back the confidence in the locker room, the swagger of a winning team. This team, many thought at the beginning of the year, was a legitimate Super Bowl contender. I think if you look at them now, the way their defense is playing, that they cannot be considered that. They need to have Mark Brunell back on the field.
They have Hines Ward in the game, and he, after being in motion, works in the slot, and Jerome Bettis moves down to the 29-yard line, where it'll be 2nd down and 7. And, you know, as far as Jacksonville is concerned, on the other side of that coin coming up on Sunday is the fact that New England doesn't know who its quarterback will be right now, Drew Bledsoe or Scott Zolak.
You know, and it's same here. The high ankle sprain, we've been talking about it a lot. You just don't know how effective Mark Brunell is going to be. Tom Coughlin very honest with us in saying if this was the playoff game tonight, he could not and would not play.
I give Drew Bledsoe an awful lot of credit for playing 2 games with that broken finger. I mean, that showed me a lot, showed a lot of guts on his part. And it showed that he really cared about winning football games.
As Bettis taken down for a loss of 2. And there is Brunell. And if you're just tuning in, he is in uniform, but do not expect him to play. They signed Will Fuhr as the backup should something happen to Quinn.
You know, and the playoffs are about quarterbacks like Drew Bledsoe and Mark Brunell. Those are the matchups that you want. Those are the marquee matchups. You know, we have one next week with Doug Flutie and Dan Marino. I mean, you don't get, you know, matchups like that during the season on a regular basis, but when all the marbles are on the table and they're there for the taking, those are the guys that you want playing those games.
Al, I think Tony Baselli has a better chance of playing quarterback tonight than Brunell.
No question. 3rd down and 8. And Stewart gets wrapped up as he reaches the 30-yard line. Kevin Hardy takes him down at what is the line of scrimmage.
And you cannot have played that any better than Kevin Hardy played it right there. Fighting off the blocker, keeping his shoulders square, not giving ground, and staying in a position to make the tackle. That was textbook defensive play by a guy who's having an outstanding season for the Jags.
Yeah, and Coach Coughlin said, we asked him, you know, give us somebody on the defense that has played well for you. And he said, hey, consistently week in and week out, Kevin Hardy has been our guy. He has been out there. He's been making tackles, pressuring the quarterbacks, and doing things just like that.
So Cordell, despite all that running around, got back to only the original line of scrimmage. Now Norm Johnson lines up for what will be a 47-yard field goal attempt. Mike Tomczak to hold it. Johnson in his 16th year from 47, and that was deflected and rolls through the end zone.
I hope it was blocked.
Yeah, if it wasn't, that was the ugliest kick of the season. No score.
Was not touched by anyone. Watch this thing come off.
Woo.
Low, flat, and ugly.
One of your drives into the wind at Sand Hills in Nebraska, buddy.
I've hit a few uglier than that.
Now Quinn on 1st down from the 37-yard line. Throws, and it's caught at the 50-yard line. So his first pass attempt of the night is a completion to Keenan McCardell. And let's check in with Leslie.
Al, you were talking about Mark Brunell's high ankle sprain. Well, most ankle sprains are where they roll to the outside like this. Mark Brunell's went this way, where he was hit from the outside. The team orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Stephen Lucy, lent me this left foot, and he said the 2 high bones here cannot be taped and cannot support weight for up to 6 weeks, but as you know, they hope to get him back for the playoffs.
Is that Daniel Day-Lewis's left foot?
I believe it is.
Thank you.
When do you have to have it back, Leslie?
In about the next 20 seconds.
Hey, Leslie, I love your shoes.
Thanks. It goes with the foot.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
It was against the Detroit Lions back on the 6th of December. I believe Robert Porcher fell on Mark Brunell's ankle, and it really moved a lot watching that film. And my initial reaction was that he broke his ankle. And Mark, it is a real question mark as to whether he'll start this playoff game next Sunday.
2nd and 12 after Taylor loses a couple. And the short drop, twin throws, and that is caught by the Pro Bowler, Jimmy Smith, and had a great year in his 6th season out of Jackson State. Carnell Lake makes the tackle.
And talking to Mark Brunell before the game on the field, he had told me, look, I'm going to play next week regardless. I mean, this is a big game for our franchise. You know, we have our first home playoff game. You know, I want to be out there. I probably won't be even close to 100%. I'm probably giving a scouting report right now to the New England Patriots. He knows that he's not going to have his movement, but he's very comfortable about the fact that he could sit in that pocket with this offensive line.
Darren Perry, one of the inactives out tonight for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and that's news. Darren, it's the first time in his career he hasn't suited for a game as Fred Taylor gets stopped at the line of scrimmage, and Levon Kirkland is there, and it's 4th down. Wild card action coming up, and ABC has both games coming your way on Saturday. This crew goes down to Miami, where Dan Marino and Doug Flutie hook up Miami against Buffalo. 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern, and then following that, Arizona against Dallas as the Cardinals on Chris Jackie's 52-yard field goal boot their way into the playoffs. And Brian Barker's kick here into the fog is an angled kick, and it is a good one. And they will line it up and mark it out at the 8-yard line with 3:59 to go in the opening quarter and no score. Jaguar land, 3:59 left in the opening quarter, no score. Pittsburgh and Jacksonville wrapping up the regular season. In the gloaming, Stewart starting from the 8-yard line on 1st down. And that's incomplete as he tried to throw it to John Whitman. It'll be 2nd down and 10. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by AT&T. It's all within your reach. Visa, the preferred card of the NFL. It's everywhere you want to be. Microsoft, where do you want to go today? And Cadillac and your Cadillac dealers. Last 3 games, those are the very ugly numbers for the Steelers. No touchdowns, 7 picks, and a 26 rating, which is pretty good if you're doing a television show, but awful if you're a quarterback. And that's caught up at the 21-yard line by Courtney Hawkins, and he has a 1st down.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, obviously, early on in this game is that Ray Sherman is moving Cordell around a little bit, saying, hey, look, we're not going to sit you in the pocket. You know that you have a banged-up offensive line. We're going to use your ability to get out and make plays on the move. And if you're not going to do it on your own, we're going to make you do it, and we're going to call the play for you to do it.
Look at this work by Hawkins to get both his feet in bounds. He's in the air, and he does a really nice job of planting both of them clearly before he's pushed out of bounds.
1st and 10 from the 20-yard line. Bettis. Bus picks up 4 up to the 24. 2nd down and 6 upcoming. Bryce Pop made the hit.
And Boomer, to move on your point a little bit, Phil Cowher took some of the blame last night in talking to us, saying maybe we haven't done that enough for Cordell early in a ball game to get him out on the perimeter, to maybe change the way a defense is going to play him by letting him force the edge a little bit.
And how refreshing that was.
Yeah.
And it just shows you how confident he is, Phil Cowher is, in his position and his understanding of what football players can do to be able to say, hey, let me take some of the heat off of him.
2nd down and 6, and that is deflected and incomplete. Cowher, one of those with security. He is signed through 2002, and if you missed it today, 5 coaches fired. Dave Wannstedt in Chicago, Don Capers in Carolina, Ted Marchibroda in Baltimore, Ray Rhodes, Philadelphia, Dennis Erickson in Seattle, and 2 other jobs are open, San Diego and Cleveland, so there are 7 vacancies.
Black Monday in the NFL. It really was. And, you know, that's the hard part about the NFL, whether it be a coach being fired or a player being released or a player getting hurt. I mean, these are all the realities that everybody who's involved with what goes on in the field is associated with and understands.
3rd down and 6, and Stewart fires, and that's caught at the 39, so another conversion caught by Charles Johnson. And he has a first down up at the 43 to the dismay of Coughlin.
And this is a problem that the Jaguars have. Right now, coming into this week, they were 25th against the pass, and it all starts because
they don't pressure the quarterback. They only have 28 sacks, which is last in the National Football League. And it all hinges with that, as you know, Boomer. Any quarterback in this game, give him a good look, he'll complete it.
And when you run guys down the field 20 yards and the quarterback has an open view, I mean, it should be 9 out of 10 completions.
2 minutes left in a scoreless opening period. Bettis off a Lester block. He threw a beauty. Takes it to the 50. That's a gain of 8. Vic Giron, the defensive coordinator of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You know, and they've had a lot of injuries on defense. And, you know, and some of their guys, Jeff Lageman, for instance, that they lost way back in the beginning of the year, they counted on as a pass rushing defensive end, somebody who has, you know, the experience to be able to come in and make plays on third down.
And he's joined by Don Davey and Seth Payne and Ronaldo Wynn, 4 defensive linemen on the injured reserve list.
This league is about pressure.
And they're getting very little, as was evident there. 2nd and 2. Bettis. And that's a first down, and Brackens paid the price as Jerome picked up another 1.5 yards off the shoulder of Brackens. A minute to go in the period. First down. ABC tomorrow. There is no doubt about it. Still America's favorite family comedy. It's Home Improvement. It's tomorrow night right here on ABC.
Talk about watching a group of kids grow up. I can't believe how big those kids are on Home Improvement. Now, of course,
Tim Allen's got some gray hair now, a little bit.
Of course, now, Al, we get to watch Boomer attempt to grow up.
I'm never going to grow up. Let me just tell you right now.
35 seconds left in the quarter. And this is Stewart taken off. And Cordell gets forced out by Kevin Hardy, a little short of the first.
You know, and that's what you want to see from Cordell Stewart. That's what the Steelers would love to see on first down more often. Give them an opportunity to make some plays when something isn't downfield. And, you know, look, this kid came in as Slash. He was a pass receiver. He was a running back. He ran the option for this team. And Bill Cowher said, all right, you're going to be my quarterback, making an athlete into the quarterback. And right now we're going through the growing pains of trying to figure whether or not this athlete will become a consistent big-time player for the Pittsburgh Steelers at quarterback.
And the quarter will end, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have gone through the entire season without allowing a single touchdown in any first quarter. No score, end of 1. Monday Night Football is back after this message and a word from our ABC stations. Those numbers, you'd think that the Steelers were routing the Jaguars, but there's no score. 120 total yards for the Steelers, 22 for the Jags, and Pittsburgh has the ball. 2nd and 2 as we begin the second quarter, and they give it to Bettis, and Jerome with a big hole, breaking tackles, and then down at the 13-yard line.
Right up the middle, boy. The Jaguar defense has got to show a little bit more. You would think after last week that they would come out here and try to make a statement, but certainly tonight thus far, they have been unable to stop Jerome Bettis, especially right up the middle of the defense like this.
Well, they have had some problems defending the run this year, giving up 4.3 yards per carry all season long. This is not the first time that this front 7 of the Jaguars has had problems defending the line of scrimmage.
Now, see, right here is a problem where Cordell Stewart loses track of the game clock or the down clock and has to call timeout. And that is one of the most frustrating things for coaches to deal with quarterbacks losing track of the down clock.
Timeout, Pittsburgh. With Dan Dierdorf, Boomer Esiason, Leslie Visser in the fog. Well, we're in the fog anyway, so it's the difference.
No kidding. All of us. Kenny Wolf, our producer, down in the truck. The fabulous Craig Janoff directing, giving us these beautiful shots.
It is a first down after the timeout at the 13-yard line. Stewart throws, and it's Bruner who can't come up with the ball. They've not been throwing to the tight end very often this year. That could be looked at 2 ways, Boomer. Either you don't go there, or the tight end makes it a situation where you're not compelled to go to him.
Well, right there, he should have had this football. I mean, so I'm thinking, you know, maybe next time I don't throw it to him. Take a look at this. This is a ball that he's got to catch, and he looks actually like he's a little disjointed when he hits the ground. That ball was perfectly thrown. It was right there, and the struggling quarterback needs help from his other players.
It looked like he caught his foot or something, and it jerked his body. It almost looked like he was getting out of the way.
2nd and 10. Bettis having a big night already. Takes it to the 8-yard line. He's tackled there by Chris Hudson. It's a 5-yard gain, and Jerome Bettis has already gained 72 yards tonight. And we mentioned earlier in every one of his Monday night appearances, he's reached 100.
And the unhappiest people in the ballpark are the members of the Jacksonville secondary. Nobody from the front 7 is getting a piece of Jerome Bettis, and it's the guys in the secondary. A good hit from Hardy there, but these guys are having to come up and take on a guy that's closer to 260 than he is to 250.
Oh, they don't want to hit a guy like that, I can guarantee you.
3rd down and 5. And Stewart, running a college play, gets out of bounds at the 6-yard line. Dave Thomas came up to force the issue and stopped him about 3 yards shy of the first.
You run a play like that because down in here you see the Jacksonville defense over the last few 3 or 4 weeks runs a certain kind of man coverage, figuring that they can get around the corner like this, and
only this time they're sitting back in zone.
Right, exactly. So the play is designed for one type of defense, and they give you another type, so it doesn't work.
All a game of chess.
Could be a 3-0 game tonight, boys.
Could be 3-0 right here. Norm Johnson earlier missed a 47-yarder. This is a 24-yarder, and that one is good. So Norm Johnson puts the Steelers on the board. 13-10 left in the opening half in Florida. Pittsburgh 3, Jacksonville nothing. The Pittsburgh Steelers have taken the lead on a Norm Johnson field goal. 3-0. And here is Johnson now to kick off. Reggie Barlow drops back deep. And George Jones flanks him. Johnson's kick. Barlow backing up from the 1-yard line. Out to the 19-yard line. Tackled there by Deshae Townsend. Tomorrow, plenty of great reasons why America's loving this new comedy. It's as funny as they come. It's the Hughleys. Tomorrow at 8:30, 7:30 Central, right here on ABC.
Well, there's Jonathan Quinn. We're going to see if they're going to open it up a little bit for him. They've kind of protected him a little bit tonight, and I don't blame them. They want to keep it simple, and they don't want to have him making a lot of decisions at the line of scrimmage.
First down from the 20-yard line. Quinn gives it to Taylor.
Well, right now they're taking Taylor out of the ball game. They're doing what any defensive team would do. They're overplaying the line of scrimmage, knowing that he's their #1 threat, and forcing Jacksonville to throw. Jim Haslett, it's defense 101. Force Jonathan Quinn to be the guy to try to win this ball game. And Taylor, what's he got? 5 carries and like 3 yards or something like that.
You saw Jim Haslett there. He's one of the young coordinators in this league that will be interviewed by a number of teams looking for a head coach. He's a good candidate.
2nd and 10, and McCardell takes it up to the 27-yard line for a gain of 7.
And his defense has played well the last couple of years, and you'll see why he's going to be interviewed. No first-quarter TDs allowed in the last 18 regular season games.
That's the most since Pittsburgh did it back in the mid-70s, and 2 of those teams were Super Bowl champions.
You're looking for a new, young, fresh face that has been around a little bit, knows the NFL and knows personnel. There's your guy.
And there's another assistant coach here as well who's going to be in that very same mix, and it's Chris Palmer, who's the offensive coordinator for Jacksonville. 3rd down and 3 from the 27-yard line. Quinn under pressure and then overthrows McCardell.
The one thing I will say about Jonathan Quinn is he is a big man. There you can see Chris Palmer to your left. Jonathan is a big man, and he can see over the line of scrimmage very well. And he is actually seeing things pretty good. He's throwing the ball to where it needs to go. He just needs to calm down a little bit and just try to deliver it a little bit more accurately.
Brian Barker to punt, and back to receive it is Courtney Hawkins. Good kick. 49-yard boot. And Hawkins with a 2-yard return up to the 26-yard line. And that's where the Steelers will take over with 11:27 to the half. 3-0 Steelers.
Show in between the couple of minutes here while they were in a timeout, treating a dummy of Cordell rather rudely out on the field. Now let's see if they can do it to the real thing.
First down at the 25-yard line as Stewart and his team up by 3. Hands the ball to Bettis, and Jerome gets taken down by Tony Brackens. Brackens a guy with a tremendous amount of physical ability, and they talk about him being a star someday, but for the most part he's been a role player to this point. But now with Wynn gone, he's going to get a chance to play almost every down.
He's going to get a lot of opportunities, and really this game and next week against New England are the opportunities for a player like him with all this ability to really start showing himself. And you can see he does have the ability. He will lay the pop on you, but it's got to be more consistent.
2nd and 12. And it's Bettis. And Bettis takes it out to the 27-yard line, a gain of 5. And there is Ronaldo Wynn, who was in fact, he had started at one point this season at every single defensive line position. First rounder out of Notre Dame last year. But on injured reserve right now.
They just went on injured reserve this week, and quite a loss. And again, we've already documented how this Jacksonville defensive line has just been decimated by injury, and this is the wrong time of the season to be hurt. This is when teams that are getting ready to make a run for the playoffs hope to get well and get better. Jacksonville's kind of headed the other direction.
3rd down and 8. Play clock was down to 2. Stewart. And Smingy got to him first. Joel Smingy, number 99, came in from the outside to sack him.
Well, we gave him a little heat the last series, and they certainly made up for it this series, putting pressure. We talked about it. Pressure is the name of the game. You want to make the other team's quarterback extremely uncomfortable back there in the pocket. And that's exactly what the Jaguars did that last series. Now
Reggie Barlow to receive the kick. Josh Miller's had a good season, very good year in fact. After spending the better part of the last 2 years in and out of
I think we got
Howard's doghouse, and there is no play. The whistles had sounded, flags had flown.
This has got to be on start. No, this has got to be on the defense. It looked like they actually moved, don't you think?
Well, I saw somebody on the Steeler offensive line move.
Prior to the snap, false start, left tackle. 5-yard penalty, remains 4th down.
But with that new rule, it looked to me as if somebody on the defensive line for the Jaguars actually initiated the move. Take a look. See?
No, yet he's going backwards. What are you talking about? That's Kevin Hardy, 51 for Jacksonville.
Well,
you're allowed to move around in your stance, Boomer. He wasn't simulating a snap. Take it back. Take it back.
Thanks, Dan.
That's
you want to throw me out of the booth?
It's a TKO. That's Pittsburgh's first penalty. And Miller's kick is a low liner, and it takes a very good bounce for him. Juggled, picked back up by Barlow, and then he gets racked at the 45-yard line. Whitman was the first guy to hit him. Flag down at the end of the play, and McAfee was there as well.
Well, we could hear that one, couldn't we?
Well, one thing we know for sure, the Steelers definitely came to play tonight.
Against Jacksonville.
Illegal block in the back, number 53 on the return team. 10-yard penalty. Receivers will keep the ball. Timeout.
Tom Coughlin, one of the more demonstrative coaches in the league. And a great one. Sees all, knows all. And he ain't happy. 9:17 to the half. 3-0. On the punt.
He's telling his coaches that they moved into me, so I should be able to move.
Quinn. And there's a flag thrown as Carnell Lake and Jimmy Smith were all tangled up. And this one goes against Pittsburgh.
Now, I was wondering when they were going to get to this situation. Try to lock up Jimmy Smith on Carnell late.
37 defense.
Jonathan Quinn certainly has the arm to get it there. He underthrows it right here. I mean, I don't know what cornerbacks have to do anymore. It just doesn't. It's something every week. It's a different thing, and obviously every official sees it differently. But these guys really don't have an opportunity to even make a play on the ball, it seems like.
Until then, they want to reset the play clock. Until that point, Jacksonville had gained a total of 29 yards, and on that penalty, they picked up 40.
You know, it's one of the things the Minnesota Vikings do so well. You know, yeah, you stumble, you drop back, throw it up, and let the guy go get it. And if he doesn't catch it, they're going to get interference on it.
Here's Taylor, big hole for Freddie, and his best run of the night is close to a first down as he takes it to the 15, tackled there by Orpheus Roy. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Miller Lite, an official sponsor of the NFL and the Super Bowl. Ford Mustang, built to last. And State Farm Insurance, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Now, Dan, I know you're looking at me like you think I'm crazy because I'm a quarterback.
No. I completely agree with what you just said.
You know, it's such a thing where you could just throw the ball up and have a penalty called on you and move the ball 40 yards downfield.
You mistook my admiring gaze.
Oh, okay.
Here's the blitz. Quinn somehow escapes.
Run it.
And he's going to run for the end zone and get there.
Tom Coughlin told us that for a guy who's 6'5" and 245 pounds that he can really run. Said he's a 4'6", 4'65" kind of 40 speed, and boy, he shows it there. This is one big man.
And what a play by Jimmy Smith, who stays on his block. This is a little bit of a scramble drill, and he stays on his block in the end zone and gives Quinn an opportunity to make a play. He stays right on Dwayne Washington. Here comes Quinn around the corner, and Jimmy Smith is in the end zone blocking Dwayne Washington right there, not allowing him to make a tackle.
Hollis for the point after.
And then there he is saying thank you. You know, Pro Bowl receivers have to do it all. You have to catch, run, and block. Look at this right here.
So a 40-yard penalty and a 15-yard scramble. And it's 7-3 catch. So the Jaguars do play 65 yards, but the key was the 40-yard penalty. And Quinn has given them a 7-3 lead as Mike Hollis kicks off. 7-yard line, David Gunn brings it back out to the 31-yard line. Cordell Stewart comes in. Stewart has begun tonight with a 5-for-11 outing for 59 yards and 1 fumble.
And the fumble came in scoring territory. He was completing a lengthy run, and they were already in field goal range, and who knows where they might have gone. And it's tough to keep the ball away from one team more than the Steelers are from the Jags, and yet they're behind. Strange game, this football.
It's been a strange year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, to say the least.
Playing real well in the middle of the year, and now a 4-game losing streak. Stewart throws. That's caught by Tim Lester, the fullback, and the blocking back for Jerome Bettis picks up about 3 to the 34.
You know, talking to Bill Coward, he's saying how he thought that the team had really started to find itself after that Monday night game in Green Bay. Then they go to Tennessee and they lose a game at the Oilers. Then they lose on Thanksgiving to the infamous coin toss game to the Detroit Lions. And then you can see here the changing of the guard, if you will, the coordinators.
For 4 consecutive years, Bill Cowher has had to fold a new coordinator into his coaching staff.
2nd down and 7. Stewart, nice tackle in the open field by Dave Thomas.
And that hurts. You get the one that knocks you back into the other, and that's a whap one right after the other.
On those DBs and safeties, they love to get free shots on quarterbacks. And you know what that shows me is that Cordell is just trying to do so many things, and you know, right here, just slide and get down instead of trying to make a move and take a shot like that. You have to play smart, and right now, you know, he's trying to do so many things. There's so much pressure on him, but he's not playing as smart as he should be.
Eric Curry was the second guy to hit him. It's 3rd down and 4. Blackwell in motion. And Cordell's pass is a bounce pass, incomplete. Intended for Hines Ward. It's 4th down and 4.
Well, Bryce Pop is right in there and unblocked. And Cordell Stewart really had no choice. He had to get rid of the football immediately.
Steelers with those coaching changes we talked about and showed you through the graphic. And also, in addition to that, this is a team that, because of not being in as good a financial position as some others, has lost since Cowher took over 10 guys who have gone to the Pro Bowl through free agency. Miller's kick, not only long but perfectly angled and out of bounds at the 14-yard line.
And Al, a lot of people will say it has finally caught up with the Steelers, that loss of talent. No one else in this league has had to deal with that kind of a constant drain in the talent pool.
I will take this defense, however. If I'm a free agent quarterback and I'm looking around and I'm saying, wow, where do I want to go? Where am I going to get the most support? Taking away the money for a second if you can. I don't know if this day and age you can. This defense is pretty good.
It's a playoff caliber defense.
Absolutely.
Cowher lecturing Fred McAfee. The loose ball here.
That was down.
I thought that he was down from the tackle by Lee Flowers.
And it's whistled dead at the 14-yard line. The 10 guys we're talking about that Cowher and his team has lost include Carlton Hasselrig, Greg Lloyd, Neil O'Donnell, Rod Woodson, Gary Anderson, Eric Green, Kevin Green, Duval Love, Yancey Thigpen, and Chad Brown. He's down clearly, and then the ball pops loose. But those 10 guys all represented the Steelers in the Pro Bowl. And then left, and there goes Quinn again. Slides to a halt, close to a first down at the 24.
Of that group, the most recent in the news, Gary Anderson, just completes a perfect season in both field goals and extra points. Ends up being the NFL's leading scorer. And
what a great year.
Can you imagine going the entire season and not missing a field goal?
Well, in conjunction with a tremendous season by the team, 15-1, the Vikings clearly the, I don't want to say the biggest surprise, but who in the world would have envisioned that?
You figure they'd be a playoff team. There's no question. 15-1 is pretty awesome, though.
3rd down and 1. Taylor picks up the first down as he takes it up to the 26-yard line.
Well, we had our first hint that they were something special when we were up at Lambeau Field, and they dismantled the Packers at Lambeau, something that, let's face it, that doesn't happen very often.
And who would have thought when the season ended with everybody focusing on Denver and the perfect season that Minnesota would wind up with the best record in the league.
And you talk about monster years for individuals. Randall Cunningham had a terrific year, and Steve Young had another terrific year. And both players who deserve MVP consideration, and I'm certainly going to do
first down as Brunell, they wish Brunell. Quinn throws to McCardell, and McCardell with only Lake to beat, and Carnell knocks him down at the 10-yard line.
Well, McCardell doesn't have to set up shop and wait for that pass from Quinn. Do we call that a blown coverage, or do we call it no coverage?
That was a blown coverage. That was actually Carnell Lake peeking in the backfield, thinking it was going to be a handoff, and then Jonathan Quinn, watch Carnell Lake look in the backfield and go, whoa, no.
Well, he acts like he's coming on a blitz.
And it looks like he thinks that the free safety should get over the top right there. Bo Orlando, there must have been a mix-up in coverage.
Well, it's a heck of a job of hustle by Carnell Lake, who acts like he's blitzing, moves all the way inside and cuts all the way downfield and makes the tackle.
Now, either he was supposed to blitz and Bo Orlando was supposed to get over the top, or he misunderstood the call in the huddle. And I think Jonathan Quinn was surprised at how wide open Keenan was on that particular play.
Well, that's some job of hustle by Carnell Lake.
2nd and 10 after the Taylor no gain. 2nd and goal. The ball at the 10-yard line with 3:20 left in the half.
How about Jonathan Quinn? He's audibling right now.
And Quinn to the end zone, and that's incomplete as he had Smith outside and McCardell inside.
Get a little confidence, you run a touchdown in, you throw a long bomb, and now you're going to get up there and audible and show off a little bit. I like it.
Well, it's one of the luxuries of being at home, being able to audible, something he didn't have last week in the Metrodome.
Tony Baselli was telling me he couldn't hear a word in the Metrodome last week, and you know, and Jonathan was having a little trouble getting the words out of his mouth, and he said, boy, Boomer, you can't believe how difficult the game that was last week.
Quinn hit as he released. You saw Coughlin, who thought the pass should have been completed. And this is a little screen over the middle to Taylor. And Taylor bangs his way in for the score.
I think that was Bo Orlando that came up and met Taylor. And Fred Taylor knocked Orlando all the way into Dawn.
And beyond. That's the 16th touchdown of the season for Fred Taylor as Hollis kicks the extra point. Only Terrell Davis and Randy Moss have more touchdowns this season than has Fred Taylor, the rookie from Florida, who makes it 14-3 Jacksonville. All right.
Are you going to tell him how you're sick of this Boston College stuff?
No shit.
Jonathan Quinn, Mark Brunell over on the sidelines, and Jonathan Quinn, I'm sure, being praised by Chris Palmer, their offensive coordinator, from up in the booth about what an effective drive he ran. In fact, there he is, Chris Palmer on the left, a guy who almost surely will interview for the vacant Cleveland Browns job. And of course, next to him on the right, Fred Hoagland, their tight end coach, who for many years was the center for the Cleveland Browns. So
this is Hollis kicking off, and this is David Dunn from the 11-yard line. Flag comes in, and Dunn brings it back out, and another flag comes in at the end of the play. Bill Carollo is the referee tonight. Going against the Steelers. Palmer can't talk about it
Holding
directly.
number 29 on the return team. That penalty is declined. Holding number 85 of the return team. That penalty is accepted. 10-yard penalty. First down.
That is Mitch Lyons. On Chris Palmer, the Cleveland Browns, there he is on the left again. The Cleveland Browns can interview 3 assistant coaches on playoff-bound teams. They talked to Brian Billick today, the Minnesota offensive coordinator, Gary Kubiak, the Denver offensive coordinator, tomorrow. And they can't say anything officially about Palmer, but he is most likely the 3rd guy. And when their season is over, i.e. in about 2 hours, they can announce that he is the 3rd guy they will interview.
They can formally approach the Jaguars about requesting an interview with Palmer.
Right.
They have to ask permission, basically.
Here's Bettis. And he's up to the 28-yard line, and that's a first down.
Now they could be denied permission, and then the Jaguars can then ask Palmer if he's interested, and then they can relay back to Cleveland that he might be interested. Is that how it works, or
it would be almost unprecedented for Tom Coughlin to deny Chris Palmer the chance to interview if the Browns approach,
even with a playoff game this close?
First and 10 from the 28-yard line. And that is caught up at the 37 by Bruner. Well, it's a very unusual situation because in years past they never allowed something like this to happen, but they felt with Cleveland having to get up to speed in a hurry, they had to make some concession, and that's one of the concessions they made.
Well, knowing that, Billick has 2 weeks, before the game, and now these guys have a game, this weekend.
And the 2-minute warning had come prior to the snap.
You make a really valid point, Boomer. You're right. There's no way that Chris Palmer is going to hop on an airplane and fly up to Cleveland and spend a couple of days when they've got the Patriots coming up on Sunday.
2-minute warning, and Palmer's team is up by 11. Fog has lifted in Jacksonville.
And the interesting thing right here now is to find out about Cordell Stewart a little bit. A 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. Try to get some points here and get his team back in this ball game.
2nd and 1 from the 37-yard line. Bettis closing in on 100 yards, takes it to the 47. That's a first down tackle by Blaine McElmurray. And Bettis now with 99 yards.
Well, here comes Cordell now with the no-huddle offense. He's going to be calling all the plays from this point on if there's no stoppage.
Stewart taken off. Gain of 5 to the 42-yard line. Tackled there by Eddie Mason.
You know, quarterbacks love this. This is an opportunity really for you to control the football game. And if you're confident in your abilities and know your offense, you should be successful in most opportunities like this.
2 timeouts for Pittsburgh. 2nd down and 5. And that is threaded into Bruner. And Bruner is down. The pass is complete. It's a first down at the 35-yard line. So Bruner dropped an easy touchdown pass before. Makes a far more difficult grab here to move the chains. And on 1st and 10, Stewart over the middle again for Bruner, and this time he juggles it, and that's incomplete. It's Charles Johnson over the middle. Johnson with Aaron Beasley, who might have gotten a hand on it. 2nd down and 10. Halftime coming up. A report. Let's go to Baltimore. Here's Chris.
Halftime show, the ESPN Top 10 Plays of the Week, which celebrated achievements, individual and collective. And Mr. Michaels will be talking with Mr. Doug Flutie of the playoff Buffalo Bills. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Doug Flutie leading his Bills into Miami, but right now 2nd and 10 as the Steelers try to get back into the game, and it is Bettis over 100 yards to the 30-yard line, tackled there by Mason, and a timeout is signaled for by Pittsburgh.
You know, I was talking about a couple of guys that I thought were consideration for the MVP award. Terrell Davis, a 2,000-yard season, a terrific year. Jamal Anderson, over 1,500 yards, and both, I mean, really terrific years, and were obviously big parts of their particular offense.
I think Anderson, he was over 18. He was 18 and change, right?
Was he 18? It was 18 and change.
Yeah.
Right, and 410 carries, the most ever in the National Football League. There is Bettis, meanwhile, as he has reached the 100-yard mark in every one of his 8 Monday Night Football appearances.
Do you know what kind of physical condition you have to be in, and what kind of mental and physical toughness you have to carry the football 410 times in the National Football League?
And do the dirty bird about 50 times.
And probably have the best smile in football. You talk about a kid that's playing happy, he is. And you can see it, it's infectious for that whole football team down there in Atlanta.
3rd down and 5. Steelers 1 timeout left, and that's incomplete. Intended for Hines Ward, covered by Kevin Devine.
You know, the other interesting aspect, you know, no receiver over 100 catches this year, and 2 running backs, you know, that played major parts in their team's success with 5.0 or better yards per carry, in Terrell Davis and Garrison Hurst out in San Francisco.
Well, Hurst had the huge plays that pad that average.
Oh, but he had, I mean, it seemed like every week there was a big play.
That's exactly it. Starting off with what, that 96-yarder against the Jets.
Well, here are the Steelers now. The Steelers will go for it on 4th and 5 instead of having Johnson with a short calf attempt a 47-yarder to pull them within 8. It is picked off at the 26-yard line by Kevin Devine, but the play is over. It is dead at the 26, but it is an interception. Devine was down by contact, and Kevin Devine, the dime back, comes in with the extra DBs and picks it off.
In this situation, you have to throw the football, and it looked to me as if Hines Ward might have been held a little bit out of his break, but the ball was thrown behind him. You got to throw it out in front to give your receiver an opportunity. You could see Ward there complaining that he was held by Devine.
But the fact is, you're right, Boomer. The ball should have been about another 4 or 5 feet to the left to give Ward a shot at it.
The game would have been different if Bruner catches the touchdown pass, and certainly Cordell is struggling with his accuracy.
First interception for Devine, first of his 2-year career, and there's a sack by Orpheus Roy, taking Quinn down well back of the line of scrimmage.
That's a sack and a half.
It is. That's a double sack. That's paper and plastic.
Right
14 yards.
Right there is the hold by Devine. You know it. Look at this. And Hines Ward doesn't have an opportunity to come out of his break. And
there are little holds and big holds. That's a big one. This was the last play, the sack by Orpheus Roy.
Sack on a screen play there. One of those offensive linemen let his guy go too quickly.
Yes, you must stop their charge and make them start over. That's what you're taught from day one on a screen. You stop the defensive lineman, make their pass rush start anew. That's the way you successfully set up a screen pass.
Pittsburgh called a timeout. That's their last, and you would think it was 2nd and a mile and 29 seconds left. Jacksonville will sit on the ball. Tomorrow night, check out Heidi Klum. She's on Spin City, just nominated for 2 Golden Globe Awards. Spin City. Tomorrow night right here on ABC.
Not very often you see a sack for a 14-yard loss.
Well, you have your quarterback retreating on a screen pass and your lineman letting him go too quickly, and
that'll send you into the kill the clock offense.
It will.
They tried to run a 2-minute drill with Jonathan Quinn. They said, forget it now. Let's just go. We got the lead. Let's get out of here.
Well, he scored a touchdown with his feet. Helped set up the other. Not bad, all things considered, for a rookie out of Middle Tennessee State. 5 out of 7 for 102 yards as the Jaguars head back to the locker room at the half in the final game of the 1998 National Football League regular season. It's halftime in Florida with Jacksonville leading Pittsburgh 14-3. Coming up, the top 10 plays of the week. We'll hear from Doug Flutie at halftime. Back after this message from the National Football League and a word from our ABC stations. Jacksonville, now that's not fog. They had a fireworks display at halftime. So we had the fog early. That's lifted. Then they had the fireworks commemorating their division championship.
And with the heavy air that we have here tonight, it's going to take a while for this to dissipate.
There's a lot of heavy air up here.
Right,
boys.
a lot of hot air up here. What else is new? Second half commences. To the 10-yard line goes the kick. That's George Jones, who played last season with Pittsburgh, and the Jaguar currently takes it to the 31-yard line, and we will check in with Leslie Visser.
Al, Bill Cowher has never coached a losing season. He has 30 minutes to rectify that. When I asked him what Cordell Stewart had to show him, his exact words were, Cordell doesn't have to show me anything. He showed me enough already. He is happy with the play of Jerome Bettis, and just to tell you how tough that guy is, Jerome told me he's having knee surgery on Wednesday. Al?
That's a story. 104 yards.
Talking at halftime, doesn't she?
Yes.
Well, Bill Cowher is quick to say this is not about Bill Cowher. This is about the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it is interesting that his longtime mentor, Marty Schottenheimer, who's never had a losing season, suffers his first one here in '98. And now they may go down together.
First down from the 21-yard line as Taylor picks up a first down, and then Emmons runs him out after a gain of 15.
No, I think that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers and you're Bill Cowher and you sit back like he says he will and get away from it and evaluate it, you're in a tough situation here because your quarterback did not play well this year. He's what you hope would be the building block of offenses for the future. And right now, coming into next year, how much time is he going to give him?
I don't know. The glaring thing there, you see, Boomer, the 2 turnovers for the Steelers have thwarted, scoring, potential scoring drives.
On first down, Taylor sees nothing to his right, then to his left, gets around Washington and turns it into a 7-yard pickup.
Boomer, to go on with your point, you're right. Wherever he imagined that he would be at the end of this football season with Cordell Stewart. This is not that place. I don't think that we're not talking about a guy who didn't continue to progress as planned. We're talking about a guy who has regressed a great deal.
He definitely went backwards, and I admire Bill Cowher's loyalty to his young quarterback, and he has seen the resurrection of players like Randall Cunningham and Vinny Testaverde.
There's Quinn throwing, and he throws it out of bounds.
You know, and he's not going to want to make a hasty jump to it, a decision, but this is a team that has playoff defensive players and playoff defensive schemes. It also is a team that can run the football when healthy, but it needs a quarterback that's going to be a force on the football field and not be detrimental to your team.
Quinn that time finding himself outside the pocket does a pretty effective job of not making a mistake and forcing it, getting rid of it, in essence, just launching it away.
3rd down and 3 now from the 43-yard line. Jacksonville up by 11 on the opening sequence of the 3rd quarter. Lake comes in, blitzing from the corner. The pass intended for Smith, and Smith was covered by Washington, Dwayne Washington, who not only intercepted 2 passes the last time these 2 teams met, but ran them both back for touchdowns in the Steelers' 30-15 win.
If he turns around there, he might even make an interception right here.
He defenses a pass and never sees it.
Jimmy Smith gets on top. Dwayne Washington turns around just a little bit too late. The ball was thrown a little bit further. Smith might have had an opportunity to make a long gainer out of it.
Brian Barker, an original Jaguar, this 4-year-old franchise. He's been the punter in every game for them. Courtney Hawkins fields at the 15 and brings it back to the 19. A minute and a half into the 3rd quarter. Jacksonville, the Jaguars lead by 11. Last Monday in December in Jacksonville, Florida, the 3rd time the Jaguars have hosted a Monday night game in their 4 years of existence, 2 of them this season. We were back here early in October when the Jags came from behind to beat the Miami Dolphins. Pittsburgh from its own 18-yard line on 1st down is Stewart swinging it incomplete. Incomplete, intended for Courtney Hawkins. Hawkins and Dave Thomas have a little get-together.
Well, Dave Thomas stretching it a little bit. They're patting the back of Courtney Hawkins.
Well, you know,
this was nothing Dave Thomas did.
No, it was just basically a poor throw by Cordell Stewart, and really,
that's borderline. That's borderline taunting.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've never seen that before.
No.
Dave Thomas saying, "Why don't you meet me at Wendy's?" 2nd and 10 from the 18-yard line. And Bettis, who was over 100, will have a couple of yards shaved off that as Kelvin Pritchett throws him for a loss. Jerome had been at 104. And are they going to rule that a 7-yard loss? And they are, so Jerome is back down to 97.
The bus got sent back to the garage there for a minute.
3rd and 17 on your own set, Lark. You got to play here.
You're the quarterback. Come up with one.
You know what? Blow it down the sideline and get a pass interference. Everybody else is doing it.
Beasley was almost offside. He blitzes. Stewart comes that way. And Cordell running for the 1st down, but not even close, as he is forced out of bounds up at the 23-yard line, and they're forced to punt.
Really, Cordell did the smart thing that time. Nobody open. He scrambles out, and he tries to make a play down the sideline, but doesn't do anything stupid with the football, and actually adds a few yards onto the punt and gives his punter some room.
Josh Miller. A kick. Bryce Pop came limping off the field after that last play, the Jacksonville linebacker. Miller with a liner. Fielded at the 36. Reggie Barlow. And Reggie back to the 46-yard line, where he gets wrestled down by Richard Huntley, among others. And with 12:15 left in the third, a little jostling going on, but Jacksonville leads 14-3. Mark Brunell dressed, but not dressed for success.
Why is even there's his ankle, his left ankle, the high ankle sprain, and we watched him warm up before the game. He didn't look too nimble.
Nope.
I think I'd have him up here.
Here's Quinn throwing, and it's caught at the 34, and Smith breaks a tackle, and that's one of the reasons that guy goes to the Pro Bowl as a starter, making it to the 12. Bo Orlando couldn't tackle him, and he turns it into a big gain of 42 yards.
Again, Carnell Lake looking in the backfield and not getting his hands on Jimmy Smith, and Jimmy Smith just stopping in the zone between the safety and the cornerback, and Jonathan Quinn throwing a strike right in there.
In the last 3 years, that's 17 receptions for Smith of 40 yards or more. And this is Taylor trying to get into the end zone for the second time, and does. Touchdown.
And for the second time, he goes right over the top of Bo Orlando to get into the end zone. Fred Taylor, a wonderful combination of fine speed but great power at 6 feet 226, and right there we saw the power.
He sent Orlando not only to Dawn, he sent him to Orlando.
He's tying Bo Orlando around the old oak tree.
Yes, he is. And Bo was the guy who had missed the tackle on Jimmy Smith on the prior play. Hollis now for the point after. And he is the mighty Quinn tonight, as Jonathan and the gang lead 21-3. To 3, Jacksonville on top by 18 as they try to close the season on an up note and get ready to host the Patriots here on Sunday. Hollis's kick floats into the arms of David Gunn at the 9. To the 24-yard line. Half-hour comedy or drama? Well, it's a dramedy. It's Red Hot Sports Night tomorrow night, 9:30, 8:30 Central, right here on ABC. What a difference between the expansion teams, Jacksonville and Carolina, both with tremendous early success, meeting each other, or the possibility existed as they went to deep into the playoffs in 1996 in their second year. But here's Jacksonville continuing on the rise. Carolina, of course, has gone the other way. And today that meant the firing of Dom Capers, as Jerome Bettis is now back over 100 yards after going down. There is Dom Capers, who was hired as the coach of the Carolina Panthers, 30-34 in 4 seasons, and of course this a year to completely forget for Dom.
Yes, certainly, and such success, Al, that he had in Carolina. And we've got a stoppage. We've got an injured Jaguar. It looks like he's going to have to come off the field. Is that Joel Smengi? Smengi on his way over. You know, a guy doesn't forget how to coach. Well, and Dom got it done in Carolina, but when it reaches a point like this, Jerry Richardson just felt compelled to make the change.
We had the whole Kerry Collins fiasco this year. Not an easy thing when your quarterback loses the confidence of the team.
1st and 10 from the 35. And that's caught over the middle by Bruner. Now, we're not going to get into this speculation nonsense. We used to hear enough of that crap on enough shows and read about it, and then you've got a little bit of this going on here. But Capers is the kind of guy, and without talking about who's going where and all of that stuff, but Dom is the kind of guy that actually could be very seriously considered for one of the open coaching vacancies.
He has a lot of friends in his league, and more importantly, a lot of respect. But Boomer, you make a good point. Things got ugly. Well, the Kerry Collins situation, you saw the Kevin Green fiasco.
But I look at this as Jacksonville gets Mark Brunell. They get him here. They trade for him. They make a great pickup, and he becomes the backbone of this franchise. You can win in this league with a quarterback like that.
2nd and 5 from the 40-yard line. as Bettis with a flag down momentarily has the first down up at the 46-yard line. Bill Carolla will make the call.
We're going to have holding on the offensive line of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the quarterback is the centerpiece, and Kerry Collins was the first pick of the Carolina Panthers. He was going to be
number 38
the guy.
Offense, 10-yard penalty. Replay the down.
It's John Whitman.
And when Kerry walked into Don Capers' office, I bet you that as soon as Kerry walked out, Don Capers probably thought, there goes my job as well.
He was right.
And it was a difficult situation. You cannot you cannot underestimate the power of a solid quarterback for your franchise, especially a young one.
It is second down now and 12 from the 33-yard line. Stewart and Cordell with a shifty move up to the 46, and that is a first down. Another guy who bit the dust today was Ray Rhodes at Philadelphia, and that was to be expected. In fact, Ray had been talking fairly openly about it. And another guy who, like Capers, had so much early success, and then it really just came unraveled in Philadelphia this year.
And if we were going to play the game of the 6 degrees of Mark Brunell, Ray Rhodes would play in that, as well as there was a time that he thought that the Eagles were going to get Mark Brunell when Brunell was with the Packers.
Yes, came very close.
He thought they had a deal, Ray Rhodes.
And you look at that team, and that team's offense fell apart. And, you know, there's another quality football coach who knows the game, who is passionate about the game, and things started to unravel quickly. And in this league, the momentum on the field and off the field can get the best of you. And both of those guys did it with dignity, and they did it with class, and they certainly know how to coach football. They know the game very well.
Well, no question in terms of Ray Rhodes, I don't know if he gets another head coaching job or how soon, but in terms of being a defensive coordinator, I mean, he's proven himself in that area.
Pretty much pick his spot.
Yeah.
The one thing I know is that the players respect him. Every one of those Eagles told us that when we were there.
Yurkovich, of course, does some finger pointing.
65, full start.
And he's right.
Prior to the snap, full start, number 65, offense. 5-yard penalty, remains third down.
Alan Faneca, the LSU rookie, the #1 draft choice. Who's played well. Also, Ted Marcher-Broda fired today when Cleveland moved to Baltimore, becoming the Ravens in '96. Ted came back to Baltimore. He had coached the Colts in the '70s. And Ted knew that his time was up, and after 3 seasons in Baltimore, Ted's days there are done. One of the kindest, gentlest guys in sport. As Stewart
Nice play by Cordell.
picks up the first down.
Absolutely.
He's got it.
And Ted Marcher-Broda, one of the guys that you assume at 67 will just sit back and reflect on what has been a wonderful career in the National Football League.
I saw his press conference today, and he said, hey, it ended amicably, and that's what I really wanted most, that he and Art Modell split ways, and they were very professional about it, which was nice to see as well.
Now, Ted has always been the classiest of acts. And you think about that Buffalo coaching staff with Marv Levy, who's just one of the all-time gems. And Ted was up there at the time as well. And the success that they had as Stewart goes deep. And Johnson can't make the catch because of great coverage by Thomas, who intercepts it. Dave Thomas blanketing him and then turning around, and there was the football.
And Thomas, I think, excited. That's his first interception of the season. And that's enough to get a guy fired up.
Minutes and 52 seconds, but on the scoreboard they lead 21-3. And after that Thomas interception, 1st and 10. From the 11-yard line as Quinn hands the ball to Freddie Taylor, and he can't originally get out of the backfield, and then does with a second burst, breaking a would-be Joel Steed tackle. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by Brewery Fresh Budweiser, official NFL sponsor. Chrysler, engineered to be great cars. Siebel Systems, global leaders in sales, marketing, and customer service. You know, Dan, we were talking about Teddy Marchibroda, and he really facilitated that transition for Art Modell.
He really did Modell a favor because he gave them a lot of credibility and acceptance in Baltimore when they moved.
Here's Taylor, and he's forced out by Washington.
And I think Art, as Boomer was talking about, it was an amicable departure, and I think Art realized that he owes a debt of gratitude to Ted Marchibroda.
Well, he's definitely a class act. You know, Ted Marchibroda is. My question is why did they ever let go of Vinny Testaverde? He was a Pro Bowl player there a couple of years back. Had an off year last year. The team had an off year. And then this year, he comes back and throws 29 TDs and has 101 rating.
Vinny is not the first player that Bill Parcells has taken from someplace else, and his career appeared to be on the downside, and Bill turned him into a quality football player.
And the Ravens chose to cast their lot at that time with Jim Harbaugh. Third down and 6. Quinn throws, and he guns it into the tight end Pete Mitchell to move the sticks at the 23-yard line. Another guy who was fired today, Dennis Erickson. This is an interesting case. You should go back to the call that went against Seattle in the Jets game. If it's ruled a touchdown, as it was, he loses the game. If it wasn't, which would have been the right call, he wins it. Maybe he goes to the playoffs on first down here. This is Freddie Taylor up to the 25-yard line, but Dennis not getting to the playoffs. The Seahawks have had that long drought, and he's gone.
Now we're playing the 6 degrees of Vinny Testaverde, right? As he was the quarterback that was ruled to have scored the touchdown when he did not.
A lot of people, though, think that the Seattle Seahawks have an awful lot of talent out there, and you know they are or were. Many people also felt that they were in the toughest division in football for a few years, but
2nd and 8 as Quinn moves away from Roy and then throws incomplete, intended for Jimmy Smith.
But, you know, it was a team that underachieved, and maybe one bad call here or one bad call there, but it was playoff potential with the roster and the players that are on that football team.
And it's the same old story for Dennis Erickson. When you don't work any longer for the guy that hired you, then everything is different. And with a new owner in Seattle, Paul Allen, I think Dennis knew that he had to have a big year, at the very least a playoff year, to save his job.
Well, they haven't been in the playoffs since '88, and Dennis had 4 years to get him back and couldn't do it. Won those 2 national titles at Miami. 3rd down and 8. Quinn showing a little pocket presence, but that pass is incomplete, intended for Keenan McCardell.
Well, if I'm a coach looking for a job, that's a team right there. They have a very rich owner. They have a good situation in terms of roster and personnel people there. You know, that would be very enticing for me.
Plus, they get a good deal on some software.
That's right. And a lot of good fishing as well. Brian Barker to punt.
And a great home field advantage when your team's playing well. That dome gets rocking.
And a brand new stadium being built as well. And they'll try to make that sound like the King Dome.
I was going to say, you don't want that dome to rock too much.
No, you don't. Not with those tiles. That's caught at the 24-yard line. Fair caught by Blackwell, who then gets touched by Kevin Devine.
Touched? I don't think Kevin Devine saw. Well, he must not have seen the fair catch signal.
Divine intervention. Andy Devine. Going against Jacksonville.
I love Andy.
Personal foul. Interference after a valid fair catch. Number 36. 15-yard penalty. First down. Timeout.
Andy would have been good in this business with that voice of his.
I could see how you couldn't see that.
This is what it comes down to at this point of the year. Stream of consciousness. We'll be back.
Could have been Bing Devine.
Out from the 39-yard line. It's Bettis, and that offensive unit has scored only 3 touchdowns now in 24 quarters, a.k.a. 6 games. The other coach who was fired today, the 5th, was Dave Wanstead. And not that this was totally unexpected, but I think a lot of people felt that Dave would survive after 6 years in Chicago, but the team without a Pro Bowl player for a few seasons now, and not a lot of talent, lost a lot of close games, and then Mike McCaskey finally had to make the move he did today. And so Wannstedt is out in Chicago. Stewart on 2nd and 5. Throws, and that is caught by Johnson. And gents, I think one of the more interesting things about the Chicago situation is that there's a lot of speculation, a lot of names have surfaced in regard to the other jobs, but in Chicago it's like it's a full guess.
And you kind of have to give Mike McCaskey credit for giving Dave Wannstedt 6 years. You know, there was a move a couple of years ago to maybe let Dave go then, and Michael signed him to a new contract. But basically in Chicago it boils down to personnel. They just don't have enough good football players, and that's been their own mistake through some questionable trades and not very good drafting.
1st and 10, and this is Jerome Bettis picking up 3.
So you say, okay, look, we don't have the greatest talent, we don't have the greatest players in the world, but I always felt after watching each week that the Chicago Bears always gave great effort. And to me, that's the sign of a coach, and whether a coach has his players respect. And I always felt that Dave Wannstedt was a guy that everybody respected, at least respected playing for him.
Rarely ever blown out. Their losses were always by a touchdown or less.
They've had quarterback problems there. They tried to bring in Rick Meyer. That didn't work. They gave up first-round draft choices for that. You're right. I think the questionable personnel decisions probably led more to that than anything else.
2nd down and 7. That's incomplete. So those were the 5 guys. Now, in addition to that, of course, Cleveland needs a head coach. And San Diego, with June Jones opting to take the head job at the University of Hawaii, he is out. So there are 7 openings now in the NFL. And one thing we can tell you is that Brian Billick met with Carmen Policy and the Cleveland staff today for 6 hours, and Policy was very impressed. We mentioned Gary Kubiak goes there tomorrow, or at least meets with the Cleveland people. And even though it can't be officially stated until after the Jacksonville season is over, it looks like Chris Palmer is another guy.
And you mentioned we've been talking about Cordell Stewart, and we'll get into this after this play out. Go ahead.
3rd down and 7 from the 39-yard line, and Stewart, as a flag comes in, that pass floats and is knocked away by Deion Figures, an ex-Steeler.
And you're going to have holding on Figures, it looks like. And again, a dangerous throw by Cordell Stewart, and he just doesn't look comfortable in the pocket.
Well, Boomer,
defense.
Bill Cowher's first order of business is going to be the reclamation project of Cordell Stewart in the offseason. How do I get him back to being a quality NFL quarterback? And you talked about the opening in San Diego. Whomever gets that job, the reclamation project of Ryan Leaf will have to start that very day. Because here's a kid. Does it suffice to say he had a rocky rookie year?
Oh, and the fact of the matter is how much money is invested into that kid, and he's going to have to grow up soon.
19.8.
19.8.
Stunningly low.
However, we will take that rating. We might even take that share. Stewart going for the end zone, and that's incomplete. Intended for Will Blackwell. Incomplete.
You're right. When you go out to San Diego, you're going to have a kid out there that was beat up a little bit. There are questions whether or not he was sleeping in meetings and his leadership capabilities. Remember that he forego his senior year. He came out young, and these young quarterbacks don't know what it means to step into a pocket of an NFL game on a week-to-week basis. And it's not about your contract. It's about once you get on that field of play, whether you can lead those other 10 guys in that huddle with you.
2nd down and 10 from the 34-yard line. Bettis tackled by Hardy.
Well, one thing we know for sure about quarterbacking in the NFL today, there are more teams that don't have one than do.
Well, have a guy that they can really rely on. You look at statistics around the league. Give Norv Turner credit down in Washington. He makes a change early in the season. Trent Green is a little rocky, but then finds his niche and really goes on to have a pretty good year.
Well, the irony in Washington is that they may be in better shape at the end of this year than they were last year when they went into this season with everybody saying, hey, this is a team to watch.
Right, exactly. And you give Norv Turner credit for getting that team back to where they thought they would try to get to.
And that's a whole other coaching situation right now. On 3rd down,
they ran out of time. The play clock expired. You know, with that situation in Washington with John Cook trying to keep control of the franchise, do look for Norv to get fired? I think Norv's going to survive.
Well, that's a pretty fascinating situation, because in due course and relatively shortly, they're going to have to determine who owns that team. And there have been a lot of bids put in by people like the Arizona real estate magnate Sam Grossman and several other parties. So I think it depends on who
until
owns the
that
team.
plays out.
Right, when they get the team and all of that. But that's a situation not in turmoil, but in flux right now.
Well, there are going to be a whole bunch of quarterbacks out there looking for jobs come this offseason as well.
3rd and 15. Stewart. And can't avoid the sack. That is Bryce Pop signaling the heavens.
Well, as well he should. Bryce has not had the kind of year he's used to as far as sacking the quarterback. 5.5 coming into tonight's game. Keep in mind, this is a guy that back in 1995 had 17.5 sacks. But he's used to playing that outside linebacker position in a 3-4. Here, it's a 4-3.
And right here he comes around Jim Sweeney, who really was a center by trade. Even though he told us before the game he did play tackle some 12 years ago.
Yeah, you kind of forget your footwork.
Miller's kick is a short floater that is fair caught by Reggie Barlow at the 23-yard line. 21-3 Jaguars, 2:31 left in the third quarter. Wednesday on ABC. 2 Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place coming your way. That's 8:30 Eastern, 7:30 Central, right here. Now,
what kind of pizza?
I believe it's a pepperoni, and it's with a, that real crusty kind.
With the cheese in the end of it?
Yes.
You eat it backwards?
Jack cheese. This is Fred Taylor picking up a yard. Now, on the subject that we've talked about the coaches and the openings, and again, without speculating about each situation, there are a number of people out there in the mix. First of all, you start with the 5 guys who just got fired. I mean, they could go hither and yon. And then we've talked about Jim Haslett. We've talked about Chris Palmer, Brian Billick, of course. Andy Reid is another guy who might get some interest headed his way, the quarterback's coach at Green Bay, as Quinn throws. And a flag is thrown.
I think a lot's going to have to, a lot will come loose, shake loose once Mike Holmgren figures out his whole situation.
That was the next thing we have to talk about. Holmgren, I mean, he has the extension sitting there, but if he doesn't sign that extension and goes somewhere, I mean, that begins a little bit of a domino
thing going on there, yes.
A hot topic all week. 21-day window. Does he? Doesn't he? Does he?
Pass interference. Number 31, offense. That penalty is declined. 3rd down.
We were talking also, there are teams that don't have quarterbacks, but there are going to be quarterbacks on the market, either via trades or free agency. And and just like Vinny Testaverde or Randall Cunningham, if you land in the right spot, you can reclaim your career and get your respect back and get to where you once were.
3rd and 9, inside draw out of the gun. Freddie Taylor. And if Freddie doesn't come out of college the same year Randy Moss does, he's probably the unanimous Rookie of the Year.
Well, he has just shown the ability to do everything for Jacksonville. He's durable. He has a nose for the end zone. This is a guy that runs for nearly 5 yards per carry, 4.7, which is just a lofty number for any running back, much less a rookie.
And he's a pretty big kid at 6 foot, 225 pounds.
And Bo Orlando will tell you the guy runs with a little juice.
And flags here.
We mentioned that Mike Holmgren is the guy that when he goes, a lot of the other dominoes might fall into place. Another guy who's kind of in that category a little bit, George Seifert.
Right, that's the other guy, sure. Who's out there?
Who you suspect will probably be offered more than one job. There aren't many Super Bowl winning coaches that that are out there.
2 Super Bowls.
Neutral zone infraction. Number 76, defense. 5-yard penalty. Remains 1st down.
Doesn't George have the highest winning percentage of all time?
Yeah.
He didn't have that percentage suffer at all at CBS this year. He did.
No.
Can't get any L's tagged on you in the studio.
Except in the paper.
Well,
here's Fred Taylor.
Those are unavoidable.
So unofficial, fortunately. Under a minute to go in the third quarter. Freddie Taylor, look at that, 17 touchdowns. Remember, he didn't start until Stewart got hurt the third week of the year. Tied with Moss, third most among rookies in NFL history. Number 1, Gale Sayers at 22. Number 2, Eric Dickerson had 20. Not bad. Flag.
Oh. Now, Dan, would you like to send out congratulations first, or you want me to do it?
No, you know what? I think I should do it, Boomer, because I was there first. And I sense you were talking about congratulations out to the Valley of the Sun.
Absolutely, yes.
The Arizona Cardinals make the playoffs.
10-yard penalty.
They will travel to Texas Stadium to play the Cowboys on Saturday. And if you exclude the strike-shortened season of '82 when the Cardinals made the playoffs, it's been since 1975 that a complete season was played where the Cardinals made the playoffs. And this is a franchise that hasn't won a playoff game since 1947.
Good to get some new blood in there, isn't it?
Go Redbirds.
Second and 17. Quinn throws. Smith makes the catch. Lake takes him down up at the 41, about 4 yards shy of the first.
I am happy for everyone in the Cardinal organization. I mean that from the bottom of my heart.
I'm glad to hear you say that.
I'm thrilled for all of them.
Well, speaking of the Cardinals, they're the second half of the doubleheader. Buffalo, Miami up first. And then Arizona and Dallas up second. ABC with both wild card games on Saturday. And the third quarter ends here. Quentin Newyar is down. They work on him. End of 3. Jacksonville 21. Pittsburgh 3. Monday Night Football back after this from our ABC stations. Quentin Newyar, the coach, the center of the Jacksonville Jaguars. He is replaced by the rookie John Wade, the rookie from Marshall, where he was a teammate of Randy Moss last year.
He's not going to have the impact that Randy Moss has.
I don't think so.
They both got some Rookie of the Year votes. Moss pulled in a few more.
Third down and 5 as we start the fourth quarter for the Jaguars. Quarterback by Jonathan Quinn. His second start. Throws and gaining more confidence as we go along. Freddie Taylor makes the catch and picks up the first down.
Actually looks pretty good in the pocket right now. Real poised, standing tall, and throwing a nice ball to Freddie Taylor. And reading the coverage, knowing that Freddie Taylor is being covered by LeVon Kirkland, all 275 pounds of him.
I'm just trying to figure out what's going through Quinn's mind. I remember how terrified I was as a rookie, and I came from a big-time program at Michigan. He comes from 1AA, Middle Tennessee State. What did he tell you their big rivalry?
Eastern Kentucky.
Eastern Kentucky. This is a pretty bright light here, Al, on Monday Night Football. The kid looks pretty poised.
He does. He was born in the town of Turlock, California. His family moved around. He was in Texas for a while, and then they settled in Tennessee, and that's been the family home. And he actually enrolled at Tulane at first, redshirted there 1 year and played a little bit of quarterback, and then found his home at Middle Tennessee State. He was the 4th quarterback drafted behind Peyton Manning, Ryan Leaf, and Charlie Batch. And that is...
Well, it should be an incomplete pass.
Because he was behind the line of scrimmage.
Forward pass.
That is a forward pass.
That is a forward pass.
No gobbledygook.
No, the reason I like the kid, just for the mere fact he called me Mr. and Sir down on the sideline.
Yeah,
showed respect. More than I get from you guys.
Yeah, but he called you Mr. Sims.
Well, actually, Jerome Bettis comes up
the guy that owns the clothing store.
Actually, check this out. Jerome Bettis comes up to me before the game. You know, and Jerome's very funny. He says, look, I'm really happy for your kid. I said, thanks. He's going to do really well in college.
Didn't say that.
Oh, yes, he did.
Third down and 10. Quinn. And this time he hits Mitchell. Mitchell busts the tackle. Boy, the Steelers are ending the year in a blaze of ingloriousness.
Well, of course, you know, Phil Simms' son Chris is accepted a scholarship to the University of Tennessee as a quarterback out of New Jersey, and Phil and I both have blonde hair. Phil and I are both basically the same size. But Jerome got us a little confused, I think. And that happens to both of us quite a bit.
I saw where Chris was.
Chris is left-handed now.
In USA Today, wasn't he the high school player of the year this week?
He's a terrific kid, yeah.
Quite an honor.
It's a great story for Phil, and we wish his family and certainly Chris good luck down there at Tennessee. And
first down
carry on
from
the family name.
31-yard line, and then Quinn takes a little too much time in the pocket, and Earl Holmes plants him.
It's a slow developing play as it is when you fake the reverse. You don't have the luxury of standing there much afterwards, and Quinn a little bit guilty, and so 3 Steelers decide to meet at the quarterback all at the same time. Joel Steed pulls up. Unfortunately, the other 2 did not for a young Mr. Quinn.
2nd and 17. Taylor. And you might be wondering about Taylor, and we talked to Tom Coughlin about it last night. He said, I'm going to play this like a regular game. We've got to get this team rolling. And in terms of Freddie Taylor, I mean, here's his ace back, and he's still, at least up until this last play when he needs a blow here, he's been in the game all the way.
I think Coach Coughlin's got to be real happy with the way that Quinn has bounced back from last week, and he just looks like he's gaining confidence, and certainly Taylor has lived up to his expectations tonight, and just the way the whole offense is moving and the way Quinn is standing in the pocket looks good.
3rd and 14 from the 35. And that pass is incomplete. It's intended for Smith, broken up by Deshae Townsend.
And that's where you can confuse a young quarterback. That time the Pittsburgh Steelers brought a safety blitz and forced Jonathan to throw the ball into coverage. And if you're a veteran quarterback and you've seen that a few times, you'll have a tendency to hold on, knowing that your blitz is picked up right there like it was in front of you, and not hurry the throw. So,
and the crowd booed when they saw the replay of Townsend arriving a little bit early with his coverage of Smith, and they were right. He was early.
Got here like Saturday. Here's Barker's kick. And it is down at the 1-yard line right there. And even Coughlin, and that's the first time I can remember that sort of a reaction from Tom. Reggie Barlow was right there to scoop it up like a shortstop.
They shoot T-shirts up into the crowd here at Alltel Stadium during commercial timeout. And pretty good teamwork there between Barker and Barlow.
That was great. Eliciting a huge smile from Coughlin, and just barely getting out of the end zone is Jerome Bettis. Tom, as intense as they come. I love to watch him work the sidelines. I mean, he's into everything. And then this reaction. I mean, they executed that just perfectly.
Hey, everything went wrong for them last week in Minnesota, and everything's going right for them tonight.
2nd and 10. The thing about Coughlin is that some coaches are specialists, and maybe they'll leave the defense alone or the offense alone or something. This guy is into everything. Every aspect of the organization. 2nd down and 10. Stewart. And that's caught up at the 7-yard line by Blackwell. And the other thing, Dan, I think he's a great game and situation at the end of game coach as well.
I don't think you can have a discussion, Al, of the best coaches in this league without talking about Tom Coughlin. And I'm not talking about just coaching either. Like you say, his personnel decisions from, you know, he started this job a year before they ever played, over a year before they ever played a football game. Every guy on this football team is handpicked by Tom Coughlin, and more often than not, his personnel decisions have been right on.
And Tom Coughlin, despite coaching only 4 years in terms of tenure, he is 6th in seniority of the 30, soon to be 31 coaches, with Cleveland coming in as Charles Johnson takes it up to the 21-yard line. You
know, when you watch Cordell Stewart throw balls like that, you wonder, why can't he do that on more of a consistent basis? It's an easy 12-yard out route off a play-action fake in the backfield. It's not a very difficult play, but he's made the play pretty much tonight. But then there have been some times where his receivers have been open and he's underthrown the ball or he's thrown it behind them. But you could see that he has the ability, and that's what excites you if you're a coach.
From the 21 on 2nd and 1. That's caught. They convert. It's a first down to Will Blackwell. We've told the story before about Tom Coughlin. He was actually the Giants' first choice to succeed Ray Handley. Was coaching at Boston College, turned it down. And Wannstedt was a second choice. As you look at some of the league leaders, and Dan Reeves eventually got that job and served in that position for 4 years. Cunningham winning the pass rating honors, Brett Favre passing yards, and Chris Chandler a great year. On first down, a little swing pass. That is a backward pass. Yes, it was. Caught by Bettis.
Man, we're getting good at those. We can spot those babies a mile away.
Yeah, we read the rule book. Yeah. Well, whatever it was. Whatever they were saying about that last week play, that Luckett got it right or not, well, it's not in printed form in any rule book we have seen.
Hey, bro.
Yes. 2nd down and 7. 2nd and 6 from the 36-yard line. And that's caught by Hines Ward, and the Georgia star, the former Bulldog, takes it to the Jacksonville 40. And now Pittsburgh moving with Boomer.
2-minute drill, the no huddle.
Well, otherwise known as?
Otherwise known as
alacrity.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You just had to get it in
one more time. It's the end of the year. First down at the 39-yard line. Bettis. Whoa, that's a first down and then slung down by Beasley.
It's funny you bring up that word, Al, because I had a discussion with a 13-year-old in his English class. They were discussing that word, whether or not I knew what it meant, and I knew what it meant.
I'm proud of you.
I was just wondering if Dan knew what it meant.
Dan went to Michigan. He knows.
John Yurkovich down on the field being attended to by the Jaguar training staff. Hopefully they can spare us somebody up here in the booth to attend to Boomer.
Yes, sir. Injury timeout. Was taken, not assisted off the field, came off under his own power.
One of the real characters in the NFL. Wouldn't you say, Dan?
Well, there's a guy you like to look at a guy and you know he needs a shower after a game. Now this guy's worked up a lather.
Guys need showers.
No, this guy's worked up a lather.
And you hope he takes one.
Well, yeah. That's for everyone who knows him, I hope he takes one.
Fernando Smith replaces him. And Stewart looking for the end zone, and Johnson had it float on him and can't make the play as Blaine McElmurray came over to defense him.
Well, here's a ball that's thrown accurately, and it's right there. And Johnson's got to make the play. He's got to go up and make this play and take the hit. Not an easy play, but we've seen players all year long make plays just like that.
Oh, you can't drop that ball.
No, you can't. You have to
right through your hand.
Stewart screened to Bettis on a 2nd and 10. 3 yards short of the first. 3rd and 3. Stopped at the 20-yard line.
When you're struggling as a quarterback, it just seems like you're not seeing the field clearly. You're throwing the ball. Your guys are dropping it. You just want one great catch somewhere to kind of get you in some sort of rhythm.
Right now, Cordell would settle for an average catch.
3rd and 3 from the 20. This drive started at the Pittsburgh 1. And that is a first down. Bettis to the 14-yard line. He is tackled there by Travis Davis. And for Jerome, it's 151 yards on 26 lugs.
Well, Jerome brought it tonight. You can't. He has been running hard all night long.
There's been only one 99-yard drive in the NFL that culminated in a touchdown this season. Pittsburgh trying to make it 2, and strangely that one drive was by the Ravens against the Jets back in week 2.
Boy, what a memory you have, Al.
You know, I just sit there all week, Dan, and you must funnel all this stuff in there.
Wow.
It's like Warren Buffett when asked how you can be a great investor, 10,000 stocks. He says, start with the A's. And that's caught by...
No.
Hines Ward came down with it and didn't have possession.
But it's the same old story. It doesn't matter whether you have the ball in the air. You have to come down and either get both feet down or land on the ground and demonstrate possession after you hit terra firma.
And absolutely a correct call by the official right on the spot. And again, another nicely thrown ball, underthrown, and Hines Ward just got to make the play.
That's the second touchdown pass this drive that's been dropped.
3rd down and 6 from the 10. Stewart and adjusting, and then that's the 3rd pass that's been dropped. David Dunn.
Well, Johnson, Ward, Dunn in that order.
David Dunn has got some real sure hands, and one of the things he does so well is letting him go up over a shorter defensive back or just giving him an underthrown ball here. Simple catch for David Dunn to make, and now his teammates aren't helping him at all.
No. 3. This is not funny for Cordell.
Richard Huntley now in the backfield on 4th down and 6 from the 10. Going for the end zone again, and that one is too far for Will Blackwell.
I don't blame him for trying somebody else.
Yes. Well, I guess in microcosm, that sort of sums up what's happened to the Pittsburgh Steelers. 6:20 to go in the 4th. One of the injured Jaguars, it's Donovan Darius, a good-looking rookie defensive back, but he's a real question mark for any playoff game.
Here is the first attempted touchdown. That one to Charles Johnson. The second one went to Hines Ward that he dropped, and then, wow, no help for Cordell Stewart.
Taylor, stop for no gain.
Number 2 went to Hines Ward. He had it and just lost it when he hit the ground. And then David Dunn, number 83 here, adjusts to the ball. And
you know, and right after that, we saw a shot of Ray Sherman in the booth, and he just threw his arms up. You call them, and you hope they execute them, and it just comes down to how frustrating a season it has been for their offensive football team.
2nd and 10 from the 10. And the new running back, this is George Jones, an ex-Steeler. Picks up 5. Monday Night Football is being brought to you by the Y-Track Grand Prix by Pontiac. Wider is better. Brewery Fresh Budweiser, official NFL sponsor. First Union, your guide to the financial world. And MasterCard, there are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there is MasterCard. 3rd down and 5. For Cinco, if you have the SAP button on, from the 15-yard line. Jones. And that's a 1st down up to the 25.
And one of the other things that is confronting the Steeler defense is that they have a number of free agents coming up in the offseason, and you can, led by Cornell Lake, number 37. And it's going to be tough to sign a few of these guys, as it is every year for the Steelers.
The mascot there attempting to inflict a groin injury.
Yes, that was a high groin strain.
On the Stewart dummy.
For Cordell.
No mercy down here in Jackson.
No, this has become a good rivalry. This is the 8th meeting ever between these two teams, and assuming Jacksonville holds on, the home team will have won every one of the 8. Jones. Just to finish up, we started before with Tom Coughlin, and I know we've told this story, but it's one of the funnier ones. When Coughlin was coaching at Boston College, and he comes back from lunch one day, and there's a message on his desk from his secretary as you look at some other NFL leaders this year. And the message is from a guy named David Selden, who at that time was one of the founders of this team. And he sees Jaguar on the slip, and he thinks it's a guy trying to sell him a Jaguar. And that's how Tom Coughlin's career with the Jaguars actually started. He made the call back. They explained who they were. He came down for the interview. And the rest, as they say, is you know what. Here's Jones.
Lo and behold, he could afford a Jaguar.
Yes, he could. A whole fleet of them now.
Shot by Cornell Lake. Pittsburgh has the
Timeout call by Pittsburgh defensively with 3:25 left in the fourth. And Jacksonville up by 18.
The national championship game. Number 1 Tennessee battles number 2 Florida State in the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl next Monday at 8 Eastern on ABC.
Well, Wayne Weaver is the founder of this team, chairman, president, CEO of this team, and he and his wife Dolores just beloved figures in this area. They've done a lot for a lot of people, and they've done a wonderful job putting together this franchise as Jones gets tackled by Earl Holmes. But Wayne Weaver coming in and the force behind Jacksonville getting the expansion franchise. And as we recall, gents, they were really a long shot to get the franchise, but against all odds, they got it. To the playoffs they go. Timeout.
Get the entire playoff schedule and a preview of the wild card games on NFL.com.
Al Michaels with Dan Dierdorf, Boomer Esiason, and Leslie Visser as the season wraps up here in Jacksonville. The Jags punting on 4th down. Brian Twacker sends it up into the fog, and it's fair caught at the 24-yard line by Will Blackwell. 3:07 left in the fourth quarter, and our 29th season winds down. Ken Wolf has been our producer for the last 13 campaigns. Craig Janoff concludes his 11th stanza at the keyboard. Ben Harvey has been here since eternity, our associate producer, and Jaime Bravo, one of the fellows who never sleeps, along with Eddie McKenna, Bob Simon, Beth Giuliani, Dina Hurd, Claude Phipps, Hal Schmitz, Sights and Sounds. And there are the boys who truly never sleep. Chris Pfeiffer and Bill Boland, the senior assistant to the producer.
Are there juniors and sophomores?
There are. These guys are like emeritus. From the 24-yard line, little swing pass. And this is Bettis, who will undergo some arthroscopic knee surgery. Our director of information, the one, the only, Steve Hurt. Lynn Vandenberg, our kennel keeper, otherwise known as stage manager. George Heller, statistician. Our spotter, Malibu, Kelly Hayes. John Bissoni, Mark Ametto, Craig Rothberg, John Winders. And the halftime gang as well as Stewart. Throws, stretching out and not making the catch, though, was Charles Johnson. Some of our crew will be heading off to postseason action along with us as you look at the pregame and halftime show gang. And don't forget, the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl is coming up. We want to acknowledge our great and good pal, Keith Jackson, whose career will wind down in the Rose Bowl and the Fiesta Bowl Friday and Monday.
And now, as we continue to look at a lot of the ladies and gentlemen that make this show special, it's been a fun year with our new guy right here, the boomster, the boomerang man, Norman Esiason.
I know you really love me.
I do love you, Boomer.
I know
We do. We're not going to give you a big wet one, but we love you.
No,
I don't want one from you, Al.
What else do you want from Dan? 4th and 2. That's knocked down.
You understand, Al, quarterbacks and linemen have special bonds. And little guys like you cannot get in
Oh, please. Boomer, I'm going to get you testosterone liposuction before the season is over.
Testosterone liposuction. Are you insinuating there's an excess?
Yes.
You know what I can't. You know what I can't believe. I can't believe how fast it is.
It's been a quick year.
It ain't
really
over.
Has. I know it's not, but I mean, for Monday night though, it's just been great, and you guys have been terrific, and it's everything I thought it would be and more.
And you picked up the check last night, and you are a stud. Or as Keith would say, you are a hoss and a half.
And that's as good as compliments get.
You betcha. 1st and 10 from the 32.
Oh, you know what? I'd like to take credit for picking up the check, but I didn't.
Oh, nice.
I can't let you think that I didn't do it.
You know, we're talking about our boy Keith Jackson. I thought Keith said one thing in an interview a few years ago, in a Q&A. They asked Keith, you know, Keith, you've done everything there is to do in sport. Is there anything that you'd like to accomplish? Is there any other goal for you? And Keith Jackson said, yep, just one. Not to die in an airport parking lot. So, KJ, you've made it, baby, and just stay away from those parking lots Friday and Monday. Jones to the outside. As the Jags wind down the clock.
I'm exhausted with you guys already.
I'm just trying to imagine if I could enter the operating room for the surgical procedure of testosterone liposuction.
Oh, he's beautiful, isn't he? He's unbelievable. You are non-stop.
Where do we insert it?
It's high testosterone liposuction. 2-minute warning. You're forewarned. Reminder after the game, stay tuned to ABC for your late local news or other programming. ESPN also has a post-game show. And that will about wrap it up from Jacksonville tonight as the 2-minute warning is upon us. Jacksonville will they'll run out the clock.
Looks like a little counseling going on there in the sideline with Jerome Bettis and Cordell Stewart. You said it, Jerome came to play and Cordell made some mistakes, and when you have a 150-yard rusher in your backfield, you should dominate the football game and you should win it. But when you have turnovers going against you, interceptions, drop passes, and fumbles, it really doesn't matter much.
Well, Jerome Bettis and his success tonight are the indication of something that Jacksonville really has to work on, and that is their run defense. If they're going to go very deep into the AFC playoffs, they've got to defend the run better than they have all season. And keep in mind, remember, Al, just a year ago that we went to Denver and saw the Broncos put 310 yards on the ground against these Jags.
And that propelled the Broncos to a Super Bowl championship. This is Jones. You saw Jerome Bettis on the Pittsburgh bench, by the way. It should be noted, 150 yards for Jerome tonight, and that is, in this losing cause, a season high for him.
They've got some work to do in the offseason. Bill Cowers can sit here and tell me all he wants, but he's going to have to really sit back and evaluate this offensive personnel. He's got a running back that can give him 100 yards a game. He gets Strelzik back, get that offensive line back to playing, and Fanek is going to be better next year.
Let's run this play right here. Now I want you to.
3rd down and 2, and now they can completely run the clock out as Jones has the 1st down.
I thought you really asked an outstanding question yesterday of Bill Cowher when you said, do you think that the new stadium and the revenues that will come with that stadium will allow you to be a more of a major player in the free agent business, where they've been a non-factor and they haven't been able to keep their own?
And you're right, Dan. I think you touched on it before. I mean, after a while, it begins to catch up to you. And, they've done a wonderful job. And Tom Donahoe, who is in charge of player personnel, has gotten a lot of credit because they keep filling in those pieces. But at a certain point, when you lose 10 guys who've been to the Pro Bowl, to free agency, it does catch up to you.
They still have a defense, and they still have one of the best coaches, motivators in all of professional football. They have to get the offense straightened out if they want to get back to the glory spot of the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And in Dan Rooney, an owner who cares very much about winning. Well, that season, the 1998 season, is over.
Thankfully for some.
Yeah, and for the Steelers, who now have to spend those several months thinking about ending the year on a 5-game losing streak. For the Jaguars, meanwhile, it's back to work tomorrow, and New England here on Sunday. We will wrap it up after this.
Football.
Let's go to Leslie Fisher.
joined by a man who had a great night tonight, Fred Taylor. Fred, what were you able to do against their defense?
We came in thinking we would be able to run the ball on them. I mean, they stacked the line a little bit and opened up the pass. And after we hit a few deep balls, we were able to run it a little bit. So, but they played a sound game. They just didn't get the victory.
Well, what a difference a week makes. You bounce back from that humiliating loss. And what do you think of the play of Jonathan Quinn?
Quinn, he stepped up tonight. He prepared well all week. And just to come in and win this one tonight, build a little confidence going into the playoff, I think that's great.
Well, you, of course, haven't played the Patriots, but what have you seen of them? What are you impressed with?
I've seen their offense. I was checking out Robert. He's a good friend of mine, too. And, yeah, I was just hoping I end up the leading rookie rusher at the end of the year. So I just check out their offense. I haven't seen their defense yet.
Well, he was probably checking you out tonight. Congratulations to you. And not to forget the Jaguar defense, Al. They want to be known as the Teal Curtain.
Well, the Teal Curtain will take on Robert Edwards, to whom Fred Taylor just referred, the rookie running back for the Pats, who come in here, the number 6 seed against the 3rd seeded Jaguars on Sunday. Jacksonville wins it by a score of 21-3. We have a wild card doubleheader coming up on Saturday. It's Buffalo at Miami and Arizona at Dallas on ABC, with our coverage beginning at noon Eastern and 9 a.m. on the West Coast. Until then, that's the story from Jacksonville, where the Jaguars beat the Steelers 21-3. Until the weekend, Al Michaels, Dan Deerdorf, Boomer Esiason, and Leslie Visser saying good night from Jacksonville, Florida.